Breaking news. This morning, President Trump warned that any dangerous air move near American ships will be seen as a direct challenge. His comment came only hours before something tense unfolded in the Caribbean. At 6:14 a.m., the calm sea turned into a live battlefield. 3 Venezuelan F-16 jets broke through the haze, flying low and fast toward the Gerald R. Ford strike group. They were moving at hundreds of miles per hour, cutting across the sky with no radio call, no identification, and no sign of slowing down. From the bridge of the Ford, the view was sharp and real. The jets were only minutes away, dropping to almost 1,600 feet as they pushed straight toward the carrier's path. Instead of turning away, they held their angle. The message was clear. They wanted to be seen. Below deck, alarms echoed through the combat center. Operators watched the radar tighten as the jets closed the distance. This was not a simple patrol. This was a direct confrontation, and everyone on board felt the shift. But what happened next showed that Venezuela had no idea they were pushing the wrong force. If you want to follow every moment of this rising clash, make sure you subscribe right now. The reason this moment matters is simple. The Caribbean is not an empty stretch of water. It is a crowded zone where every radar, every patrol route, and every ship movement carries weight. When 3 F-16 seconds push straight toward an American carrier group without warning, it is never just a flight path, it is a message. And on this morning, that message hit hard. The Gerald R. Ford was moving through one of the busiest corridors in the region. Tankers, cargo ships, and patrol aircraft cross it daily. Any sudden move can trigger confusion or even disaster. That is why American crews train non-stop. They know that in this tight space, seconds matter, distance matters, and judgment matters most of all. For the sailors on the Ford, this was not simply another shift. Many of them had been tracking Venezuelan activity for weeks. Talk across the fleet said the Air Force in Caracas was getting bolder, pushing closer to American ships, trying to see how far they could go before someone pushed back. So when the F-16 seconds dropped low and came straight in, nobody thought it was a mistake. It was a test. From a strategic point of view, Venezuela gains nothing from a real fight, but it gains attention from close passes, aggressive angles, and sudden dives. These moves send a signal to its own public and to other nations watching the region. They say, "We are not afraid to fly near America." The problem is that these moments also raise the risk of an accident that could pull both sides into a spiral neither one wants. Inside the Pentagon, this kind of behavior is known as gray zone pressure. It is not war, but it pushes the edge of safety. And every time it happens, analysts watch closely. They look at speed, altitude, and timing. They try to understand what message Caracas is trying to send and how the US should respond without going too far. For the Ford's crew, though, it was simpler. They had to stay calm and hold the line. If you think this pressure test from Venezuela crossed the line, press 1. If you believe the Ford handled it the right way, press 9 and subscribe to stay with the story. The first signs of danger appeared when the radar picture shifted. A technician leaned in as new returns slid across his screen. These signals came from the southwest, climbing fast and matching the speed of the first Venezuelan jets. It meant only one thing: more fighters were on the way. Now, 6 F-16 seconds were heading straight toward the Ford strike group. Inside the Combat Directions Center, the lights were dim and the tension built. Operators kept their eyes locked on their displays as a sweep of red tightened on the radar. No identification, no response to hails, one controller reported. His voice stayed calm, but everyone understood the weight of those words. The watch officer stepped forward. Plot their angle, confirm altitude. His hand rested on the console, steady but focused. Every small move, a tap on a keyboard, a quick glance felt heavier now. Moments like this turn routine actions into decisions that could shape the entire day. Above deck, the response kicked in fast. Yellow shirts signaled 2 FA-18E Super Hornets into launch position. Their engines shook the deck with deep, sharp bursts. A catapult shooter knelt, checked the rail, and dropped his hand. In an instant, the first Hornet blasted forward, lifting into the sky. The second followed seconds later, banking left toward the incoming contacts. Inside the Ford, crew members watched the climb on their screens. Altitude 5,000, then 10,000, then 14,000. The Hornets were racing to intercept before the F-16 seconds could reach the carrier. This was the moment sailors trained for again and again, hoping it stays inside simulations. Today, it didn't. On the destroyers Mason and Thomas Hudner, alarms triggered as both ships tightened their formation. Engines pushed harder. Electronic warfare systems activated in short, controlled bursts to complicate any enemy targeting. These moves didn't make noise, but they mattered. They bought precious seconds. In the sky, the Hornets leveled out and scanned ahead. At first, only empty blue. Then sunlight flashed off 6 shapes cutting through the haze. The F-16 seconds approached in a tight attack-style formation, their noses pointed directly at the American fighters. A radio call broke the silence. Viper 1, maintain defensive posture. Do not escalate. Copy, the pilot replied. Holding clean. 2 American jets rising to meet 6 Venezuelan fighters, with a carrier group below depending on every decision. The air felt tighter, the stakes felt heavier. Every mile they closed pushed both sides closer to a line no one wanted to cross. If you were in that cockpit facing 6 fast-moving fighters, would you hold your line or act first to protect the fleet? Press 1 or 9 and let me know as this confrontation intensifies. The moment the Hornets closed in, the air picture shifted again. The 6 Venezuelan F-16 seconds tightened into a sharper wedge, a clear sign they were not backing off. Inside the Ford's combat center, operators tracked every change as radar lines merged and split. Range decreasing. Speed steady, a controller said, and the room grew even more focused. In the sky, Viper 1 and Viper 2 shadowed the formation from above. They held a clean angle, giving the F-16 seconds space, but never losing sight. For a few seconds, the sky felt quiet except for engines and short radio calls. Everyone knew that kind of quiet usually comes before a sudden move. It came fast. One F-16 rolled inverted and dove toward the water. Another followed, flying low enough that its wake shook the surface. These moves were not routine. They were pure pressure, meant to force a reaction. On the Ford, the phalanx system rotated toward the diving jet. The barrels tracked automatically but stayed silent under strict control. One burst at this range could start something no one wanted. The crew watched carefully, waiting for the next step. The destroyers also moved. Mason closed a small gap in the defensive line. Thomas Hudner shifted to keep radar coverage tight. These adjustments looked minor, but they protected the carrier where it mattered most. Back in the air, the F-16 climbed sharply after its dive, passing close enough to Viper 2 that turbulence shook the Hornet. The pilot stayed calm and held course. Another F-16 drifted across Viper 1's projected path, forcing a small correction to avoid getting too close. None of this was accidental. These were controlled moves testing how far the Americans would bend. "They're pushing the boundary," the tactical action officer said quietly inside the combat center. Everyone understood. This had gone far past simple posturing. Yet the Ford stayed steady. It did not turn. It did not change speed. It held its line through the Caribbean while the F-16 seconds tightened formation again, as if preparing for the next move. The confrontation was rising fast, and the next decision on either side could change the entire outcome. The next shift came fast and caught even experienced operators by surprise. For almost a full minute, the 6 Venezuelan F-16 seconds held a tight circle just outside the carrier's defensive zone. It looked deliberate, almost like they were waiting for a specific cue. No one knew what they were waiting for, but the tension made every second feel heavier. Then a faint radar spike flashed across one screen. It was short, but clear enough to be seen. It was a direct pulse aimed at the Ford, not a missile lock, but a clear sign of intent. The operator leaned toward the display. "Combat," we were painted. The room went still. A deliberate paint is one of the simplest ways to say we're testing you without firing anything. In the sky, the Venezuelan formation shifted too. Their once tight shape loosened just slightly, forcing the Hornets to track more angles at the same time. Small moves like that are used to stretch attention and raise pressure without breaking any rules. Viper 1 kept his tone even. Maintain posture, do not chase. Then came the real twist. One F-16 drifted wider than the others, climbing to around 9,000 feet and circling slow. It did not attack, dive, or charge. It simply stayed there, hanging on the edge, almost inviting a reaction. That single drift meant more than the earlier dive passes. It signaled a probe, a quiet move to see how far the Ford would hold its line. Inside the combat center, officers watched the radar picture shift. None of the actions were openly hostile, yet everyone pushed closer to the boundary where simple mistakes can turn into major incidents. The wide-circling jet made the intention clearer. Venezuela was gathering information, footage, and measuring American discipline in real time. For the Hornet pilots, the message was obvious. This was no longer just a buzz or a show. It was a push to read the carrier group's limits. If you think this wide turn was designed to force a mistake, press 1. If you think it was only a bluff for the cameras, press 9 and follow the next step of this confrontation. The confrontation reached its breaking point when the 6 Venezuelan F-16 seconds dropped lower and closed in fast. What had been steady pressure now turned into direct aggression. Control, Viper 1. Contacts descending, the pilot reported, watching the formation tighten in a way no one could ignore. Inside the Ford's combat center, radar tracks moved sharply as one F-16 broke from the group, rolled inverted, and dove straight toward the strike group. Alarms flashed. On the destroyer Mason, sailors felt the shockwave as the jet skimmed the water and blasted past the bow. A second F-16 followed with another fast dive before pulling up hard. On the Ford, the phalanx system rotated toward the threat, tracking every movement but holding fire under strict orders. One burst at this distance could start something no one was ready for. In the air, Viper 2 steadied his Hornet while another F-16 cut in front of him, close enough to shake the aircraft. He stayed calm and held his line. Discipline mattered more than speed now. Then another F-16 climbed after its dive and pushed the edge of the carrier's restricted airspace. Control, they're pressing the boundary, Viper 1 warned. The officers aboard the Ford understood the pattern. These moves were not random. They were designed to see if the carrier would turn or react. But the Ford held steady, refusing to show weakness. The most dangerous moment came when one F-16 flipped inverted again and dove straight toward the carrier deck. It passed so low that crew members felt the air blast across the flight deck. One wrong move and the morning would have turned into a disaster. After a long, tense pause, the F-16 seconds pulled up together and climbed away. The danger faded, but no one felt safe. The jets had shown just how far they were willing to push. And everyone knew this encounter still wasn't over. When the Venezuelan F-16 seconds finally climbed away, the sky over the carrier group looked calm again, but the tension stayed with every sailor who had watched the jets dive and pass so close. The Ford kept moving on the same steady course. It never turned, never slowed, and never showed a sign of pressure. That simple decision said more than any radio message. Inside the combat center, operators saved everything. Every pass, every radar spike, every second of footage from the Hornets and the ship's sensors. Analysts in Washington would later study it frame by frame, looking for clues about Venezuela's intent and judging how close the encounter came to becoming a real crisis. But Venezuela reacted quickly too. Not long after the jets returned to base, state media released edited footage showing the F-16 seconds near the carrier group, trying to suggest they had forced the US ship to back off. The truth was the opposite. The Ford never changed course by even a single degree. To strategists, the incident showed how modern tension works. It is not always missiles or open threats. Sometimes it is a low pass at high speed, a tight turn near a destroyer, a short radar pulse aimed at a carrier. These small moves push the edge of safety and test judgment more than hardware. For the sailors aboard the Ford, the meaning was more personal. They felt the shock waves hit the deck. They heard the alarms. They saw the phalanx track a target that could have triggered a chain reaction if one pilot slipped. Their discipline kept the situation from turning into something far worse. Judgment, not missiles, was the strongest weapon on the ship that morning. The world may have seen the edited clip, but the Navy saw the truth, and both sides knew the encounter would echo through future patrols and training. Incidents like this shape the rules of how close jets can fly near a carrier without risking a crisis no one can control. What happened that morning was not random. It was a message from both sides, delivered in speed, distance, and restraint. If you support the Ford's calm response, press 1. If you believe the F-16 seconds crossed a dangerous line, press 9, and stay with us as this story continues.